You found us.
Welcome to Emergency Protocol, a podcast for people who are stressy and depressy.
We are your hosts,
Denise.
And Jackie Freed. That's my mama.
And that's my baby.
We are sharing our 12 steps reimagined for today's society.
And our bumpy, pothole-ridden spiritual paths.
And we're bringing you along for the ride.
This is us doing the actual work.
When the shit hits the fan, you know it's time for
Emergency Protocol. Hi. How are you?
Not okay.
I'm going to open up with those of you who've seen The Bear. Like, I'm going to call it the Donna question. You okay? We won't actually start with that. We're just here we are.
Here we are. We're back.
We're back. And today we're going to talk about some what? Things?
We're going to talk about some things. I was thinking that it would be helpful to talk about getting help, like what that actually looks like in practice as I'm figuring things out. And then you can talk about your experience of doing that. And yeah, so my therapist is on maternity leave right now. And it sounded like she hadn't fully decided if she was going to come back or not. But we're in an election year. I definitely need support right now, regardless. So I decided that I would go back to square one, which just even thinking about that is a very exhausting and daunting process.
Wait, tell me what you think square one is. Okay, of finding a therapist.
Of just getting help.
Okay.
Going back to square one, I feel like I'm doing chutes and ladders, right?
Okay.
Like I got down the chute of one thing and now I've had to climb the ladder back up.
Got it.
So because it's not just, it's such a multi-layered process to admit that you need help, to admit that I need help. I keep saying you, to admit that I need help, and then to decide how I'm going to pursue getting help, who I'm going to ask, right? Or how I'm going to find it. And so last time I reached out to my old therapist and got a referral from her, and my therapist who's on maternity leave is fantastic, but she's also very expensive. Mm-hmm. So I decided to see if there were any resources available through my insurance company, which it turns out there are. They have like mental health coaching service, which has been interesting. I started that last week. And then also they have a therapist like referral program. And so I found someone where she takes my insurance and it looks like there's zero copay. So
nice.
That seems ideal. And to be fair, the process is a bit more seamless with the insurance company that I have now. Like that's, I think, one of the advantages of Kaiser, is they've concentrated so much of their care within the network that as soon as I said that I wanted to sign up for therapy, I was sent to this partner that they have called Rula. Mm-hmm. And so Rula has like a bunch of different therapists that you can choose from. And they're all associated with Kaiser already, but they could give me an estimate of what the copay would be. And for most it said like $0 to $40 per session. But then you have to go through and like read all these bios. And these are all just like random strangers that are out there, right? So, and that's just knowing that they're going to take my insurance too, right? If you don't go through insurance, then you have to figure out like, okay, like, or if you have a different provider, right, it's not as obvious if they do or don't take your insurance. You have to call the office or call the therapist themselves, and it's just exhausting.
Yeah, my therapist is not on my plan, but every once in a while I try and submit for reimbursement. Mostly I get denied.
Bills?
Yeah. But
yeah,
it's expensive.
It is expensive. So yeah, there's that. And then I also signed up for the like mental health coaching as well, having no clue what that is. It seems like it's more of like a accountability coach kind of situation where they're like, what are some things that you're working on? And like, what are some steps you can take between now and the next session kind of thing. So helpful in a different way than therapy we'll see if I keep going with that. But for both of them, like they're online based, and for both of them, the schedules that I had picked didn't actually match up with like the provider availability, even though that's what it had said on the app. So it just felt like there was all of this confusion, and then they both things like automatically rescheduled me to different days. And so just like trying to keep track of all of that is tough.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
But you did it.
I'm doing it.
I mean, you had a meeting with both the therapist and the coach, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you did it. You have to give yourself some credit that you actually climbed the ladder.
Yeah, but it was
up.
like I was grabbing onto a ladder full of stinging nettles the whole time.
Yeah, but you did it, and now it's done.
It's not done, though,
I mean,
because okay, so here's the next part, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you are seeking a mental health therapist, like it's not necessarily going to be a good fit, too. Right? So you have to give it a couple sessions, and then if not, then you've got to go back and find another provider, right?
But that's not what's happening right now. Do you think this person is a good fit?
She could be.
Who knows?
Who knows? I mean,
Right.
again, it's like one session is not really enough to tell.
No. But I'm going to go back to pulling our steps into this.
Uh-huh.
If you're being guided,
Uh-huh.
let's assume we're being guided. If you're being guided by your universal mother that you're trusting in, and out of all the bios, you picked this person and they were available and they took your insurance, one could assume that they might be a good fit.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm hearing is you're already kind of assuming they might not be a good fit, and there's going to be more work to do, even though that work hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah, because I've had like bad therapist experiences in the past. Although that was actually a psychiatrist, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I did was I've also reached out multiple times trying to get a psychiatry appointment and like just get kind of the mental health ball rolling with my insurance company. And like I called them in March. I did this hour-long intake thing, and they're like, all right, someone will follow up with you in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm like, okay. But like for me, if there's like nothing I can do and they don't follow up, then like the ball just gets
goes
dropped,
into the black
right?
hole.
Yeah. So I finally followed up again this week and was like, I need a psychiatrist referral. What do I need to do? And so they went back and they looked at my chart or whatever, my files, and they were like, oh yeah, we see that you have that here. Like, we'll try to
escalate it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they escalated the therapy thing too, because I called about therapy last week and also psychiatry, and then they dropped the ball on the psychiatry thing. So I had to call again about the psychiatry thing. And so the psychiatry, now I just have to wait for them to call me sometime in this next week.
Got it. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I remember when I first was reaching out to my therapist, who was a referral from a friend. It was before the pandemic. So I'd say maybe beginning of 2020. I feel like I was still managing some Brentwood office. So my first conversation with her was there. Not exactly sure, but I'm guessing 2020 or 2021. Might have been back. Do you know? I don't know. I don't know the exact sequence. Anyway, she was like, I'm really busy right now. There's more than I can handle. I'd love to see you, but I just really don't have time. Can you call me in 3 months and check back in? And I was like, all right. And I literally just put a thing on my calendar and said, call this woman in 3 months. And I called her in 3 months because I felt like as we talked that first time that she heard me and I heard her. And I was like, okay, that's really what I need in a therapist is somebody who hears me, you know? And so I called her back in 3 months and she's like, well, I don't really have a regular time, but if you want to do this, we can try and set up like I can fit you in where cancellations are
Yeah.
for a little while until we can find a regular cadence.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, I'll take what I can get at this
Yeah.
point. And so it was like this Wednesday at 11, and then 2 weeks it's going to be Thursday at 3. And then it was kind of just like bouncing all over the place for
Yeah.
a while. And then we got into a regular cadence.
Yeah.
Like once somebody dropped out and gave up their regular thing.
Spot. Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing ever since. But yeah. And then, people I know who I've referred therapists out to, they're all super busy and don't have a lot of time. And it takes a lot of like the person seeking help to keep reaching out. And so I think it's super hard, especially for someone like myself who is a like immediate gratification kind of person to
Someone who doesn't wait in line for dinner.
I don't know.
Doesn't wait.
Only lines I wait at are Disney, and even then I'll buy a fast pass.
So
I don't like waiting. I feel like it's a waste of time. I haven't worked out why the line of all things are a waste. No, I mean, is it? I don't have that same. No. I don't have that same sense of waste if I'm on Instagram for an hour. So it's not all capitalism. It's not all that. There's something about standing in line. And I'm sure it's like entitled. There's all kinds of stuff in there. Like, why don't you know what my time is worth? Which is capitalism on one hand. On the other hand, it is the immediate gratification where I just like often too, when you were talking about restaurants, by the time I've gotten to the restaurant, I'm already hungry. So by the time I've waited, we've gone from hungry to hangry, usually. Because then I'm frustrated and hungry. And yeah, so reservations are, open table is my thing. Resi. It solved most of my problems. The issue with that is that most of those places are more expensive to eat at.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to pay a little bit more to have that luxury.
Okay.
Wherever I am.
Okay. Great.
But sometimes I wait in line. I waited in line a lot in Japan. And Japan... Wait, in Japan, our cab driver had a totally different attitude about it. He was like, we like waiting in line because if you're in line, it means it's worth waiting for. And I was like, I cannot grasp that concept at all. So, yeah. Are you going to go ahead, comment. Go ahead. I can take it.
You waited in a few lines in Japan.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
She's trying to be kind.
I'm trying. I'm trying to give credit where it's due.
She's trying to be kind, but her face is not doing that. So there we go. All right. So
the line thing. It's you were like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the thing. And then we there was one line where we were going to go get these like fluffy pancakes, like souffle pancakes. And it was this tiny restaurant on like a second floor on this random street. And we get there and there's like a small line. We're like, okay, we could do this. And then we see that the line is like going down this stairwell and there's like people with suitcases and they're like, yeah, we've been here 45 minutes already. And I could just feel the energetic, like, nope.
I was like, as I'm walking down the staircase, I'm like, there's only one way the staircase is going for me and it's out the front door. Yeah, I was not going to wait for 2 hours to eat fluffy pancakes in a little tiny spiral staircase. Ugh. But, okay, and then in my mind, there's so much to see and do, and my time is there this much. I don't want to spend it in a stairwell waiting for a fluffy pancake. Like, fluffy pancake, the benefit cost analysis does not compute for me.
So if it was something else,
if it wasn't in a tiny spiral staircase, and maybe it was...
That's also capitalism, right? It's like, this is like finite, like trying to maximize every single aspect of life. Don't you think there's some kind of beauty in slowing down and just like hanging out in the stairwell?
Yes. I would spend 2 hours standing. I would stand in line for an hour to get into a beautiful garden. But I'm not going to do it for a pancake.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Anyway,
tangent.
That I could not wait for and eat in Hawaii, which will be equally, I'm sure, delicious. So I know I can get that. That's the other thing. I know I can get that pancake in other places. It's not the only place I can get a fluffy pancake, but it is the only place I can experience a beautiful, like that kind of beautiful Japanese garden. Right? So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of, there's a lot going on in there.
I guess.
As I'm stomping out the front door going, fuck this. Nope. Yeah. And we had to wait until like 11 because nothing opened until 11. So we're wandering the streets when really I should have just went and stood in line and been first in line. Thinking, I don't know why I was thinking we were the only ones that were going to know about the fluffy pancake. Apparently the word got out. So anyway, down a tangent. But seeking help. So seeking
immediate
help.
Gratification.
Yeah.
It's hard when you want help and need help and seek help and you don't get it right away. Because it's already requiring so much bravery and effort just to get to that point. And to not be met with what feels like equal reciprocity from the system is really tough.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think it's a struggle right now for a lot of people are super stressed right now and full of anxiety and lots of things.
Yeah.
Had an aha moment last night driving back from the ACFC game. Even though we lost against Gotham, which, okay, Gotham.
Infinity Stones.
Jackie is like, of course we lost. They have the Infinity Stones. What, like 7 players on the national team?
One was, I found out the goalie is on the German team. So it's only 6 players going to the US team.
Okay, finally. Fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were driving back on the freeway and I was like, your grandma has never driven on a freeway? And she doesn't leave the house much. And I was like, huh. Like I never associated grandma with anxiety.
This is my great grandma. This is her grandma.
Yeah, my grandma.
Grandma Marford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I was like, huh. Wow.
Yeah.
There's generations of this that shows up in other ways that I've never connected the dots to, literally, until we were driving and I said that last night. Even though I've said it and I've known that grandma doesn't drive a freeway and it hasn't in her whole life.
It's just like a part of her personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was fascinating to me. Anyway. All right.
So I also see online, there's like a couple versions of this meme that's like, really? Autism doesn't run in your family? So your grandpa, who was obsessed with trains and ate the same meal every single day, 3 times a day for his entire life, had no signs of like neurodivergence, or like your grandma who was constantly stimming by knitting and like had a very exact time schedule. Like the signs are all there. The calls usually coming from inside the house. It's just like there was no language or education.
From inside the house.
Yeah.
Also, I want to note that Jackie said today was a blankie day. Like she needed some blankie.
I needed a blankie.
And so Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have a blankie day. Okay. So in the seeking help, and when I was new, I mean, I just went to meetings. There was no therapy. I had no insurance. There was no funds. There was no, and it wasn't normalized like therapy as a,
Yeah.
and so
And AA wasn't even really normalized then,
no,
right? Like it was still growing.
It was no. I mean, there were millions of people who
Sure.
are in AA,
But it
at
was
that
like a
point.
thing.
I mean, it was like
a thing.
30 years old.
Yeah. But now it seems like everybody and their mother is like out and proud sober about it.
I
And
think
feel
the
like there was still
shame of
shame.
it.
Yeah.
You didn't, and there was the anonymity. And the thing with anonymity is it's kind of there's two different things about the anonymity of that. And one is the shame side of not wanting anyone to know that you're part of this thing because you're an alcoholic and you don't want anybody to know, which most people know. I mean, unless you're sitting at home by yourself, most people know, right? But the other side of the anonymity is a humility side. Not a humiliation, but like I am doing this for myself and not for public display kind of thing.
Like it's a private thing I'm working on.
It's a private thing I'm working on, right? And so I don't know. It's interesting. The help that I got in sobriety is from sponsorship. And so in the 12-step rooms, people look for other people who have worked the steps or who you can relate to, people who you think can hear you.
Yeah.
And have something that you want and some direction you think you could follow. And they sponsor them in a way of saying like, you know, I need help. And so the first sponsor I had was very directive and was like, you're going to do this. And I just did it once I surrendered and became willing to do whatever it took.
Yeah.
And then there were other sponsors that weren't as great, kind of like what you're saying with the therapist. It's just not a match.
Yeah.
And then there's sponsors that have moved away. And then recently my sponsor passed away. And it was interesting. I was speaking with her daughter today because we're going to honor her at this retreat that I'm organizing. And I told her a story about her mom and someone that she sponsored who was very famous in the way that my sponsor sponsored this person, and we had a laugh about it. They've both passed since then, and we're going to honor her. And it was interesting to hear my sponsor's daughter to say, you know, I'm really looking forward to the listening of what you guys have to say about my mom, because my mom didn't ever tell me these stories, right? Because that's the other thing with the not the anonymity is like, you don't, well, at least I don't, and some people do. Those are the not safe people, but the safe sponsors don't tell other people's secrets.
Yeah.
So people
there's
tell
like
me,
a presumed duty of care almost.
correct.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, when somebody is honoring me with telling me actually what is going on in their deepest, darkest kind of things, their shadows in their life, I'm really responsible to not saying something. Like I said something this week to you and you were like, are you supposed to share that? And I was like, well, it's out on Instagram now. And so now I can share it, even though I've known about it for days and days now. And it's something that I would normally just come to you and say, oh my God, didn't you believe this? But it wasn't my secret to share until the secret was shared. It was out. Right. Yeah. And so you know, there's a certain kind of responsibility in being that kind of container for somebody. And it's also sometimes hard.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people tell you stuff that is like, you know, do I need to go to the police with this information? Like they did some really shitty stuff. Right. And you're like, okay, what is my moral dilemma here of, you know, how do we amend this? Yeah. Right. And so,
there's no like clear cut guidance on that from AA, right? The way that like in therapy, when I went to therapy too and had this like first call, She was like, before we start, I just need you to know, like, there's 2 circumstances in which I'll have to end our sessions and contact like the authorities. One is if you're a danger to yourself or to others, and the other is if there's been like abuse of a minor. Like I'll have to just stop the session and like call the police. And it's like, I hope you would if that was the case. Right? Like, fine, great.
Yeah.
But that's not as clear cut as a sponsor maybe.
No, because we don't have that kind of code of ethics or professional responsibility, and you're just dealing with other addicts and alcoholics. I mean, some are credentialed, some are people who are in the mental health field, some are whatever, but most of the time it's just another person who's been through what you've been through, and it's somebody you can relate to and hopefully take direction from. And usually I try and bring all of that back to the steps. Like if somebody's talking about whatever, then I'm usually the 2 questions I ask are, you know, where is God or whatever you believe in that whole scenario, and what is your part in it? And that usually then we can get clear on how to stop the spiral, right? Like where is it that this stuff is happening, and where is it that I'm taking what is happening and making it worse. Right. And so that's what I look to when I'm talking to my sponsor, even today. It's like, hey, I need to talk to you about this. I'm feeling this and this. This is the way I'm behaving. I don't like it. What should I do? And then it's like, well, you know, back to step 3, or we're going to look at 6 and 7 and see what, you know, where are you acting in ways that aren't serving you or them or whatever, right? And, you know, in this stage of my life, a lot of it is about saying no to things that I would normally say yes to because I felt responsible for a lot more than I needed to. And so I'm trying to learn how to say no to more stuff so that I have space in my life to do things like this. That I really care about.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some other things too. So like my house was really chaotic. It's still really chaotic, but it was like really just getting out of hand. And Friday I finished work and then I was like, all right, like I just need to not sit down and like do all of the things. So I like did the dishes. I like scrubbed the floors. Actually, when we were on our call with Kim, when we were doing our weekly call with our editor. And something about just like having that kind of stimulation while I was working was really helpful. Like it's not always enough to have an audiobook or a podcast.
Right.
Yeah, but I got a lot done. I like did all of that. I washed like 3 sets of curtains in the house, and I put away my laundry mountain. Like it was a lot.
It feels good though, right?
It felt good, but also I was really hot and sticky and sweaty by the end. But then it was like 11 o'clock. I didn't want to shower. So then I just like went to bed sticky, which felt gross. And like, I just don't like getting hot and sticky. I feel like I struggle, especially in summer, because I really don't like getting hot and sweaty and sticky. And to do like when you do things in the summer, that's what happens. And I also don't want to shower like multiple times a day. That feels like a waste of time to me. And it's also uncomfortable because then I have to deal with my hair and do all this stuff and blah, blah, blah.
Interesting.
I know. So just getting more curious about like, oh, why does this actually bother me? Like, what is so uncomfortable about this? Right.
But I sense that something shifted in you between a few weeks ago and now. And I don't know if you sensed that.
Yes and no. I mean, yesterday it kind of came back. And then yesterday, so like I was really motivated. I wanted to just like stay home all weekend and like keep cranking away at stuff. But like yesterday we had a baby shower that I went to, which was great. But you know, yeah. And I had some work to do and in the morning, and then I had that soccer game at night, right? And so like normally I'm like one event a day, one outing a day is plenty for me, right? Like sometimes out work is that outing, right? Like that's like enough, and that totally drains my battery. And so yesterday I was like, all right, I have all of these things that I want to do, but I also want to sleep in. So I'm just going to let go of the fact that today is not like a home and errand day. Like I'm not going to put any pressure on myself to clean. Like I left the dishes in the sink overnight and I just was like, that is not what today is for. And it is okay. So I like stopped and wasn't beating myself up about not doing all the things. And now I'm here today doing this, but I'm going to go back and like do more stuff. Hopefully, like assuming I have the juice to do it. So,
I know. So
it's hard. Being an adult is hard, guys. Being a kid is hard. Being alive is hard. It's really good in a lot of ways, but it is also really hard. I don't want to like gaslight us and be like, oh, but the joys of life. I'm like, no, this shit is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
It's continuous.
Yeah, because there's always more dishes.
Yeah.
There's always more laundry. There's always more.
Yeah. We could be naked eating berries in the forest.
You mean, like naked and afraid with fucking.
No, I'm not talking about naked and afraid.
And whatever's. No,
Forgot
thank
about
you.
The centipedes.
Girl. No.
All right.
I sent her, that's what I do. I look on Instagram and I send her shit. And it was like these 5 drunk guys who wake up and there's like beer cans and all kinds of shit all over there in Costa Rica. And they're like, what the fuck is that? And there's literally a monkey like climbing around eating all their stuff. And then they look up and in the chandelier, there's this giant bat. And they're like, I don't know. And then they're like, and who's that guy? And they're like, I don't know.
Passed out on the couch.
And then this other guy is there standing there. And who's that guy? And he's awake. And they're like, I don't know. And And so that's kind of a funnier version of like, you think it's like, okay, I got all that done and now it's done, but it's not done. And so the disappointment is that, fuck, I just cooked and now there's more.
Yeah.
Like I created this space to have this thing. Yeah. And now I've had this thing and now there's more of the shit that comes with the thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I already washed all these curtains. I'm going to have to do it again, like in the winter.
Right.
I won't do it again in the winter. I decided washing curtains once a year is enough. I'm going to do it in summer when they will actually dry.
There you go. So I think in asking for help, we keep talking about having a in-person meeting and we are getting closer to that.
Yeah.
Like we kind of created a list. We've created a space. We've done some stuff. I think that will be helpful to have community.
Yeah. If you're interested, I did make a Google form.
Okay.
Where people could enter if they want to participate, like if they want to be notified about meetings.
Okay.
They can enter their information and we can keep them posted.
Okay. So that'll be in the show notes and Yeah. And you can DM us as well, or it's better to do the form because then we have everybody's information in one spot.
You can DM us too.
Okay.
That's fine. DM us if you've got questions or feedback or whatever, or shoot us a text. I got a really nice text the other day from a friend who said that she listened and it's really sweet.
It is nice.
Yeah.
I got an email from somebody back east, same thing. So You never know. Anyway, here we are, struggling and not struggling. But, the struggle is real, right? Looking for help is real. If you're listening to us, there's something in what we're saying that hopefully is connecting with you and making you not feel so alone in the struggle of it.
Yeah.
And we're happy to be doing this. And it's, this in itself is though a lot, right? It's like, it's like, okay, we got to keep going. So
and I'm like doing I'm in it doing the work. Like it's heavy work, right? I'm like doing an inventory and like writing, and it's not easy to process. So if you are feeling like you need to go slow, like that's okay too. Yeah. I'm going slow.
There's no race here. There's no perfect way and there's not one way. Yeah. And we're coming up with a workbook. We're halfway done. Well, we're a third of the way done. We're on step 4. But we're a third of the way-ish done. And there will be a workbook that could help you with prompts around this work and around these steps. And hopefully that will be helpful as well.
Yeah.
All right. So drink water.
Drink water. You're a miracle.
You're a miracle. We're a
You're
miracle.
a miracle.
We're all miracles. It's all good. It's all good, and it's hard, and it's messy, and it's beautiful, and it's all the things. Like life is, it's complicated, and it's also not, right? It's just like, one thing I will say that I am really choosing, and I'm going to just say this. I had lunch with one of my very best friends, and she was talking to me about a meeting or lunch she had with somebody that was a new friend to her. And the woman said, I want you might, she's like, I don't know if you're going to use this or not, but she said, try tomorrow to not complain and just see how that goes. And I was like, huh. So then we were talking. I was like, well, I'm going to complain. She goes, it's okay. It was for tomorrow. I was like, okay. It's really hard to go a whole day without complaining.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. I'm going to try it as a little practice to see how it affects my moods.
Yeah.
So that's the little experiment I'm trying this week.
Love that.
Yeah. All right. Drink some water.
Drink some water.
Thank you for listening to us.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
Yes.
Blanky was in full service today.
I'm just gonna.
And there she goes. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and TikTok at 12 Steps for Everyone. That's at the number 12 Steps for Everyone.
Please like and follow us. You can also send us topics you want us to dig into or follow-up questions from each episode.
And if you know someone who would enjoy or benefit from our conversations, please feel free to share this with them. All are welcome here.